Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Yay, you can hear me. That's good. Okay, so I'll just go over what I just said. Was the reason I wanted to do this live broadcast today was to kind of give you my thoughts on the latest news of the Panasonic GH6, and also to let you know, because I know some of you are interested in what I've done with my GH5, GH5S, and whether or not I regret getting rid of it. And the answer to that is partly yes. It has gone. I've sold it and all my lenses. But to be fair, I'm probably more regretful of selling the lenses than the cameras. So have I replaced the GH5 and the GH5S? The answer is no. And the reason I haven't is because I've already got a Canon C70. I've already got a Canon R6, and one of the reasons I always use the GH5 and GH5S was for long form content, and it's interesting that since I've gone live and I've bought an A10 Mini for my live streaming, I'm now no longer using the cameras to record, so they're just going straight into the A10 Mini. I'm broadcasting live on YouTube, and I'm also recording out into an Atomos from there. So yeah, I haven't replaced the GH5 or the GH5S, but that's not to say that I won't be going back into the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds fold when the GH6 is released. And the rumoured specs, or they're not even rumoured specs, are they now? They're kind of, it's a development announcement, and I think it looks really good. They're going for 4K at, is it 120 frames per second? They haven't said whether that's 422 or 420, but still I think that's quite good. And interestingly, the GH5 Mark II that I originally poo-pooed has a really nice feature where you can live stream directly from the camera, which I think is really good. I don't know, what do you guys think of the GH6 announcement? Have I sold anything else? No. I'm primarily now shooting on my C70 and the R6. And actually, one reason why I decided to stick with the R6 was because I wanted lightweight lenses. And I realized actually that if you use the R6 in crop mode and you use EFS lenses, you actually get something very similar to a GH5 with good autofocus. Admittedly, the IBIS isn't quite as good. But yeah, if you use a lens like the 50mm STM, this isn't the EF version, and I'm using the, sorry, just catching up on the chat. No great autofocus, no GH6 for me. Yeah, I kind of get that. Lorenzo Latini says, I think it will be great if they improve also the autofocus. Again, it does come down to the autofocus. But if you use the R6 with a small EF lens like this, then it feels very much like a GH5 with good autofocus. The only catch is that I missed the manual focus of the Olympus Pro lenses. But yeah, it looks interesting. And interestingly enough, although I never used autofocus on the GH5, I did have a G9 at one point, which I've also sold. That was quite some time ago now. And the autofocus on the G9 is actually quite good. It's not rubbish. It's not good at tracking. So if you're trying to track somebody on a bike or running, it's not going to do that. But if you want to pull focus just by touching the screen, it actually works reasonably well. John T says, for me, my GH5's IBIS is the maker for me. I do a lot of handheld video. Do you know what? I absolutely agree with that. And that's probably going to be my biggest regret of selling the GH5. I've shot some music videos on the GH5 and it just completely handheld, and it's so liberating. I did a corporate video last year, probably one of the only video jobs I actually did during the pandemic. And and that was out in the fields in the summer on a GH5. I couldn't have asked for anything more. It was really, really good. And I'm starting to doubt whether or not I would be able to perform the same task on the Canon R6 because of the overheating, unless of course I drop down to 1080. So yeah, I may regret my decision to sell the GH5. However, I'm obviously aware that the GH5 now will be plummeting in value because the GH6 has been announced and the GH5 Mark II is out. So maybe not such a bad thing. Your music inspiration video you did gave me a lot of inspiration too. Which one? Because I've done a few. I know I've only put a couple on YouTube. Probably, I'm guessing you've seen the one, I think it was Cooler Than an 8-Ball in the Corner Pocket, where we walked around the streets of Manchester, and that was pretty much all shot on the GH5. Yeah. So this GH6, let's see, what are they announcing? I'll tell you what else is really good as well. They've announced the, is it the 25 to 50 lens to go with the 10 to 25, and that does kind of show that they are still committed to micro four thirds, and I was worried that they wouldn't be. Yeah. So what else has it got? It's got the GH6 I'm talking about now. It's got 4K 60, 4K 120. It's got Vlog included. It'll have that live streaming capability of the GH5 Mark II. It'll have the new Vlog, we think. We don't know about the autofocus though, although I did watch DP Review's video a short while ago, and they kind of suggested that they still might put phase detect autofocus in it, but maybe not. Yeah, I think the R6 is a good replacement though for the GH5. If anybody's kind of wondering whether or not the R6 is a worthy replacement, it is and it isn't. It's definitely not as good with the IBIS. So if you're going to do a lot of handheld video, the GH5 is still better. Vlog should always have been included with the GH5. Yeah, I agree. I also bought the Vlog upgrade for the G9. Yeah, it's a bit tight really that they didn't include it. By the way, can you hear me okay? Is the audio all right? Mohammed says, I love my R6. It's worthy of your love. I'm growing to like mine more now I've not got the GH5 because I'm relying on it. And actually that's probably one of the big things I've noticed, which is that since I've not had the GH5, I'm forcing myself to use the R6 more. And the more I use it, the more I appreciate it. I think the IBIS is good too in the R6. It is. It's good, and it's certainly good if you're going to stand still and shoot something stationary and just do some slight body movements, then it's absolutely fine. But if you're going to try and walk with it or do anything more dynamic, then it's not as good as the GH5. Audio is good, thank you. Good. One thing I do find with the R6 is the image quality in the standard picture profiles is way too contrasty. It's completely unusable. But of course, if you use C-Log, then you're committing yourself to H.265 10-bit, and as everybody knows, those files are a pain to edit. So I've taken to using CineStyle, the free picture profile that you can install on the R6. So unless I'm doing any kind of really high dynamic range content, then I use the R6 in CineStyle, but not on the default settings, because if you install CineStyle, it defaults to, I think, contrast all the way to the left and the color all the way to the left, and that's then too flat. So you've got to do a lot of, you know, adding back contrast in post, and that can fall apart. But if you use CineStyle and you drag the contrast slider to, I think I use 1 click above middle, and then the color, I think I have 1 or 2 clicks above middle, that's the saturation, then it looks pretty good. It looks better than the standard picture profiles, with a little bit more dynamic range. Mohammed says, you have a question. Do I mind? Of course I don't mind, my friend. No, you fire away. If anybody's just joining this, if this is a little disjointed, I have to apologise. This is the first time I've live streamed, so it's kind of a challenge keeping on top of the chat. I'm sure I'll get better at it though. If the news about the GH6 is true, would I buy it? Oh, I think right now the answer would probably be no, because if it was out right now, probably not, because I've sold my lenses as well, and it would be too painful to rebuy them. But I think possibly if it was out maybe towards the end of the year and the specs were everything that we hope they would be, perhaps if the 4K 120 is at 10-bit, if the autofocus was even better than it is on the S5, which in my opinion is still not good enough, yeah, I might. I'm also keen to see, there's rumours that there's an S1H Mark II coming out as well, so I think even if I was in the market for a GH6, given that I've got quite a few Canon lenses, I'd probably be holding fire to see what the S1H Mark II looks like, because that does look interesting. Peter Cooman says, great to see you live streaming. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, it's been a challenge to get this set up. Primarily I've got this for music tutorials, so I'm planning to do some tutorials around music production and teaching piano lessons and stuff privately. So obviously I've got 2 cameras here. I've got my computer screen and an overhead of my keyboards. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff, then stay tuned. I know a lot of people are interested to know how I'm going on with my Canon C70. And I'll be honest, when I first got it, I was slightly disappointed because the autofocus didn't feel to be that great. And the main reason I got it was because of the form factor, because I was sick of carrying around my C200 with a detachable handle and screen. And the C70 kind of ticked all the boxes, but I wasn't that initially impressed with it. But I have to say, having used it now for 6 months, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And primarily because the files are actually quite easy to edit. The dynamic range is amazing. The autofocus is great if you give it enough light. And if you use the speed booster, you get 1 stop more light and the autofocus suddenly gets even better. So I'm really liking it. Lorenzo says, I don't understand Panasonic's strategy. Why did they announce the GH5 Mark II without mentioning the GH6? Absolutely, it was crazy. Is this the way they have turned... Oh, in this way, they've turned away many users who have felt cheated. I completely agree, Lorenzo, completely. It was the reason I've got rid of mine. I didn't trust that they were serious about Micro Four Thirds. As it happens, I was wrong, and I'm quite okay to say I was wrong. I perhaps wish I hadn't have sold it, but I have. So now I'm going to move on and keep my eyes on other things, including the S1H. Yeah, they were very silly not mentioning the GH6 when the Mark II specs were leaked. Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to stay on, by the way. I was kind of using this as a good test to see how my live stream is working. I'll probably stay on for half an hour, and I've been going about 20 minutes now. So feel free to throw any more questions my way, and if I can, I will answer them. I tell you what I do think, though, whilst we're on the subject still of the GH5 Mark II, the GH6, is although the GH6 specs look really good, one thing I think they've missed a trick on is they still haven't launched or announced a GH6S, because I think that's what most people are waiting for. People love the GH5's IBIS, they love the ergonomics, but they hate the low light. And you can get around the autofocus with good manual lenses. But if you're in a low light situation, the GH5 is rubbish. So I think they've missed a trick not announcing a GH6S. Okay. Yeah, I think I might be calling it a day soon, because not got too many more people on, and I've kind of said what I wanted to say really, which was that I have sold my GH5, my GH5S. I do regret it slightly with the GH6 announcement, but I wish they'd introduced or announced a GH6S, and they haven't. So yeah, I'm going to see what happens with the S series first before I make a decision. And for the time being, I'm sticking with my C70, which is filming me now, and the Canon R6. Yeah. Okay, a couple more minutes and then I'm going to call it a day. John T says, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on this live stream. Well, thanks for contributing, John T. Yeah. Yeah, it's therapeutic in a way. Yeah, kind of, yeah, partial regret. So it's good to air it. Okay, yeah, I think I'm done here. So I hope this was at least semi-interesting. I hope it's gone smoothly. I'm useless at looking at the correct camera, so apologies for that. I'll get better at it, I promise. I do intend to do more live streams. How do you feel with the C70? Are you satisfied? I think I just answered that. And the answer is, I initially thought the C70 was good, but not great. But over the last 6 months, I've grown to really appreciate it. And I think it's an amazing camera now. I do miss the viewfinder though. But other than that, I think it's awesome. How do you feel with the C70? Yeah, I just read that. Mohammed says, you can use the money to buy the new GH6. Yes, except I'd have to rebuy all of those lenses, and they're not cheap. I would have nothing other than the Olympus Pro lenses, which they're about, in the UK, I think they're about £1,100 each. It's a lot of money. So yeah, I'd hang fire. Okay, right, thanks chaps, thanks for watching. I'm going to log off now. I'll try and do some more of these at some point in the future, probably once a week. I'm also going to be doing some music stuff as well, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Good night.